So we are just a few hours away from the age of disclosure being released. I mean, if it comes out at midnight, I'm sure it'll probably be a little bit after that, but nevertheless, by this time tomorrow, it'll be out for anyone to view if they so wish. Now, I thought I'd do something fun and just read some of the reviews on it. There's only 8 on Rotten Tomatoes, and unfortunately, it's not looking too good. I mean, of the 8 reviews, which isn't much, only 2 people actually liked it or would recommend it. Now, the way that Rotten Tomatoes works is that it's either a thumbs up or a thumbs down. That's it. So, it doesn't give a score like 40% or 80% or whatever. So even those that do like it doesn't say if they love it or like what score they would give it. Those that dislike it doesn't say that they dislike it like a lot or just a little bit. You get the idea. So anyway, I just thought I'd read some of these. I don't know if I want to read like the entire articles. We'll just go through some of them. So this first one here, I actually read this earlier, the article from the New York Times. I thought it was pretty cool because the New York Times, if you know, you know, but in December 2017, the New York Times released some stuff, and that's when this current wave of disclosure started. That's when it really started. And there's a lot of people behind that effort, and I think Lou Elizondo was one of them, but then we got some of the videos from different situations. So anyway, let's just read this first one. But no, when I originally read it earlier today, I read it on Facebook, I think, and I didn't know it was a negative review necessarily. There's one part, like this part right here, that I read that, I don't know, it's kind of hard to understand if it was like a totally negative or what review. But anyway, question the film and you're a chump, it implies. But anyone who sits through its nearly 2 hours of unprovable claims is a chump of a different sort. Well, that's like the top part of the review, but that's not, I mean, there's something kind of similar language-wise in here. You have to show the full article. But it seemed like it was kind of praising the film a little bit at first. Yeah, it's not that long of a review here. If you don't believe that extraterrestrials surveil our planet in bubbles that can warp time and space, the movie suggests that you've simply fallen victim to a government disinformation campaign intended to make people skeptical of UAPs. Hasn't Hollywood described as part of that effort done precisely the opposite? Question the film and you're a chump, it implies, but anyone who sits through its nearly 2 hours of unprovable claims is a chump of a different sort. Okay, so that's the direct quote right there. But I don't know, it didn't seem like it was like trashing it too much. But this person praises it, a slickly edited and provocative but repetitive and unsurpassing documentary. So I haven't read the full review. Looks like a lot. So you can tell right away that the person was, supporting it, but then at the same time says that it's repetitive. So that looks like there's multiple reviews in here. Slickly edited and provocative but repetitive and unsurprising documentary about the cover-up of non-human intelligent life. Director Dan Farah combines footage of the UAP, aka UFOs, with a series of talking head interviews with current and former government officials. Most of them say the same thing about how the government tries to suppress and discredit officials who dare to investigate UAPs and to inform the public about their discoveries. One of them even talks about how not only their livelihood was threatened, but also their life. They admittedly only discuss the information they're legally allowed to discuss, so it's tempting to wonder what they're not telling us. If you're looking for a fair and balanced documentary about UFOs, you'll be disappointed. If you don't believe in UFOs and are looking for a documentary to convince you otherwise with hard evidence, The Age of Disclosure won't change your mind. In other words, it's preaching to the choir. If, however, you are among those who are already convinced that extraterrestrial life exists and that there's a global cover-up, this will be music to your ears. It's fast-paced like a thriller, which makes it feel less dry and more cinematic. Fundamentally, The Age of Disclosure is a documentary about the importance of truth, which is an essential part of democracy. Unfortunately, it would be a stretch to say that the U.S. is a functional democracy, so until it becomes a fully functional one, we may never learn the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth about UFOs. At 1 hour and 50 minutes, The Age of Disclosure opens in Angelica Film Center and on PVOD, whatever it is. Anyway, so that was a positive one, but not super positive. Let's just start reading just the headlines here. At its most speculative point, the Age of Disclosure comes off as Unsolved Mysteries dressed up in a suit and tie. Next one, if the job of Age of Disclosure was to convert skeptics, it failed. The approach taken here is heavy-handed to the point of being, did he meant to say poo-faced? My problem with the Age of Disclosure isn't the lack of opposing views or voices. It's that there couldn't be experts debunking anything here. Nothing is proven, and thus nothing can be refuted. The evidence, if you truly look at it, isn't all that compelling. It's fascinating to look at, but quite inconclusive. It's hardly the stuff that alien dreams are made of. So he wasn't like totally dogging on it. And then this only other person here that liked it. As someone who has never been persuaded by anything I had ever heard about aliens before watching the film, I feel qualified to tell you that the Age of Disclosure is really, really convincing. So, yeah, what do you guys think about that? I want to go back to, let's see, this one right here. There's some things that kind of came up in my mind. It seems like, let me just kind of look through this real quick again. Most of them say the same thing. Yeah, we've seen that a couple times, how it's repetitive. Hold on. It did talk about preaching to the choir in here. I thought that was interesting. Now, from my understanding, this movie is supposed to basically inform the public of what's going on from government officials. So it's not just, Joe Schmo telling their story about being abducted or whatever. These are people who have worked in government or are still in government. So, I mean, personally, I think that's really important, and that's the appeal of the film, but it doesn't seem like it's getting everybody on board. I mean, you don't want it to reach just people preaching to the choir. You want maybe people who are on the fence to be converted over to the side to demand from their government that it tells them the truth about UAP. So I don't know, I'm a little bit torn on what I'm reading so far. It says that it won't change your mind. So if you're, if you don't believe in UFOs and are looking for a documentary to convince you otherwise with hard evidence, the Age of Disclosure won't change your mind. I have a little bit of a problem with that. Just with the whole hard evidence aspect of it. People that have worked on these programs, they're not just going to be able to take their work home with them, put it in their back pocket. Hey guys, I'm just going to take this home with me so I can show people, the world. Yeah, it's not going to work like that. I think we all can admit that there are, what's it called, black budget or whatever, secret programs, technology that the military has that we can't even fathom. People can talk about that there is something like that out there, and you would believe them, right? But you're not going to say, oh, where's the evidence that, what we see in the skies right now as far as jets or whatever, military jets, that's all we have and there's nothing else, unless we see hard proof, of different technologies. Guys, that's just not how it works, and they're not going to be able to take classified information home with them, or material rather, especially something, this is, if this stuff is true, then it's even more kept in the dark than, military weaponry or, whatever, technology, something extremely secret. I think they would do a better job at, just being all willy-nilly, okay, whatever, Fred took home, videos of this super secret non-human intelligence craft, and he's going to post on YouTube later. Whatever, not a big deal. No, this is some serious stuff, and they're serious about other things. We can all admit to that. We understand that they're serious about other things of national intelligence. Why wouldn't they be even more serious about this? Let's just pick a random one right here. This one from Tom O'Brien. Let's see, how long is it? Yeah, this one's pretty long. This caught my eye right here, this paragraph. Farah stages many of Elizondo's scenes, almost like a college lecture with a blackboard and bullet points, which are backed up by a series of demonstrable facts. To Elizondo, the fact that we're not alone in the universe is a given. From there, he asserts that technology of a non-human origin has been recovered and other nations are racing to reverse engineer that technology to gain a geopolitical advantage. The only reason, he argues, is that this information that is not released to the public is that it could put in the hands of bad actors in Russia or China and used against us. Because of the sheer amount of evidence that remains classified, the only visual proof is a bit of a letdown. Clips of a UAP pausing in mid-air and suddenly zigzagging in the sky, as well as images of the 2004 Tic Tac incident in which naval aviators spotted an oval-shaped object in the sky. Proof to a degree, but they are images that are already familiar to anyone exploring the subject on the internet. Now, I would argue that people in high position, their testimony is proof enough, or evidence at least enough. Again, like, what more do you need? Like, and especially in today's AI world, like, do you really think you're going to believe another video? You know, even something that would, 20 years ago look super convincing, and you'd be like, okay, this is evidence. Or unless you actually go there, who's going to be able to go to some top secret bunker somewhere and be able to touch the craft and look at it, go inside it, fly it around or whatever? It's not going to happen. Sorry. So, I don't know. And people want evidence and they say that, like, well, people talking about it isn't good enough. I don't know what more you want, really. Like, so I'm not saying that you're wrong for wanting to see more. I mean, I would love to see more. But people talking about it, that is testimony. It works that way in the court of law, too. You get people to talk about, what they've seen, heard, experienced, whatever. And hey, if you want the beans to be spilled on any of these things, then, let's tell our leaders we want whistleblower protections. We want to know more of the information that people can't tell us. Then that's, we need certain laws to be passed, right? Anyway, let's see this paragraph here. Instead, what Farah is left with are his experts talking about the importance of further study into UAPs because of what many have seen in the classified material. Their arguments appear to be sincere, and I thoroughly believe that they believe what they said they saw. It's designed to start a conversation, but it's not proof. It doesn't help that many of the talking heads speak in such a monotone, except for the lively Elizondo, that their testimony begins to blur together and loses impact the more the film goes on. Worse, in several cases, when asked about the impact that revealing this information to the public would have, the responses ratchet up to the hyperbole with such phraseology as, this is similar to the Manhattan Project, this is the atomic weapon on steroids. We got that in the trailer. And this is the biggest discovery in human history. That part's also in the trailer. Even the normally level-headed Elizondo is not immune, asserting, you have information being locked away that can change the history of our species. With such extreme warnings, any viewer would ask, okay, what is this information? Unfortunately, the only practical answer, we can't tell you it's classified, doesn't really cut it. The implied message that the film's experts suggest is simply, it's big, trust us, which brings the film distressingly close to the pronouncements of many of the cheesier UFO docs. At its most speculative point, the Age of Disclosure comes off as unsolved mysteries dressed up in a suit and tie. It's a shame because clearly Farah, who has acknowledged that he grew up watching Steven Spielberg's E.T. and Close Encounters and went on to produce the director's Ready Player One, sincerely hopes this film will start a conversation or perhaps even a movement for the U.S. government to follow through with action after last year's congressional hearings. That the Age of Disclosure falls short of being the magic key that will open those doors shouldn't stop others from trying. The film is right in one respect. The truth is still out there. So it's not, there's a little bit of positive in there, but anyway, where it says sincerely hopes this film will start a conversation or perhaps even the movement for the U.S. government to follow through with action after last year's congressional hearings. Did you forget we had one this year? And last year was only one. So you're talking about like one in 2023, one in 2022, one in 2024, and then one this year. So it's not plural hearings for last year, but whatever. Maybe this guy is kind of not too familiar with the subject, but yeah, that's kind of disappointing though. Like, that's what I want. That's, I'm sure, what the filmmakers want. That's what people in the UFO community want. They want a movement to begin from this film. And so far we only have two people that like it, and the one was kind of wasn't like a, if they were to rate it 10 out of 10 stars, or out of 5 or whatever, it wouldn't be 100%. It would be like maybe just above middle, maybe. Anyway, let's check out this other one here that was positive. Or wait, is this? I mean, I get some of the frustration though that we can't have all the information that we want. I don't know, I'll just start randomly right here. It's ironic that the rise in seemingly credible evidence of alien encounters has coincided with our media ecosystems, turning into a free-for-all that allows conspiracy theorists of every stripe to spew that word without consequences. If you haven't been paying attention, you'd be forgiven for assuming that a new documentary about the Pentagon's alleged encounters with aliens was Reaganite nonsense that's best ignored by anyone who hasn't pre-ordered UFC 314 yet. But first-time documentarian Dan Farah is determined to convince you otherwise with The Age of Disclosure, which features 34 former military and intelligence officials speaking on the record about what they see as compelling evidence that alien civilizations pose a geopolitical threat that needs to be further studied. Elected officials from both parties, many of whom are known for their serious foreign policy chops, also appear in the documentary to emphasize that the issue deserves serious attention. The evidence for UAPs begins with the claim that certain flying objects picked up by American military radar in recent years couldn't possibly have been made by humans. For one, the fastest aircrafts known to mankind max out at around 5,000 miles per hour, while UAPs have been seen traveling at nearly 10 times that speed. They're also allegedly able to stop on a dime in midair and make turns at sharp right angles that would be impossible for any jet that we designed. Combine that with a puzzling lack of environmental emissions and strange medical after effects on people who encounter them, and it begins to seem like we're dealing with something from beyond this world. People who have seen UAPs also make similar claims about their appearance, often describing the vehicles as massive, matte black prisms housed in inside giant floating bubbles. The fact that many of these alleged sightings have taken place around military bases have led many, including UAP whistleblower and Age of Disclosure main character Lou Elizondo, to believe that extraterrestrial civilizations are actively trying to study our military and nuclear capabilities. A former Pentagon counterintelligence official who claims to have researched UAPs as a director of the Classified Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, or ATIP, Elizondo says he resigned his position due to his belief that the Pentagon wasn't treating the issue with the seriousness it deserved. While he and the military officials who back him up refused to disclose classified information, they claim that the declassified tidbits are enough to justify the commitment of significantly more resources to the UAP problem. Elizondo serves as the film's protagonist and narrator. I think he is a producer on the film, actually. Anyway, detailing the scientific evidence for UAPs, the geopolitical threat they pose, and what he sees as the United States military's long-standing refusal to treat them as a serious issue. He claims that the Pentagon has overseen a decade-spanning UAP investigation known as the Legacy Program, with career bureaucrats protecting sensitive information by keeping it out of the hands of presidents who might feel compelled to impulsively blab about it. The film makes no comment on who that might be. In his view, many of the powers that be have a vested interest in keeping the knowledge of UAPs a secret, and we're all the suckers who will pay a price for their arrogance. And anyway, it just goes on and on. Wow. Oh, he gives it a grade, B+. All right. Anyway, yeah, so you can read all this for yourselves, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess I'm not really surprised that there would be this many dislikes of it. But at the same time, I don't know, it makes me a little bit more pessimistic, I suppose. It's not like the big thing that maybe we have been looking for, but who knows? I'm hoping that there's still going to be a lot of coverage on this, and it does get a lot of people interested. And more than that, I'm hoping just behind the scenes that something is going on, because that's what we want. We want disclosure. Is this truly the age of disclosure, as the film suggests in its title? Well, I really hope so. I made the case the other day, like, we as Christians, we should be for disclosure. And, I gave a bunch of reasons, but I mean, part of it, just to be honest, I don't know if I mentioned this last time or not, but I just want to know. Like, I'm tired of speculating. I'm tired of just getting tidbits of information here and there. I want the full details. So, yeah, what do you guys think of it? I'm still going to support the movie by ordering it. I'm not sure. Can we find out, like, how much it costs to rent and or buy? Like, what's the difference between the two? Is, what's the price difference? Oh, okay. What am I doing? Age of Disclosure film. How much does it cost?
The Age of Disclosure will be available on Amazon Prime Video on November 21st, 2025. The cost will depend on whether you choose to rent or buy it, with the price set by Amazon.
So it's not going to say. How much is the Age of Disclosure film to rent, and how much is it to buy? Fine, we'll just go there. Okay, pre-order movie, $25, and doesn't seem to say how much it is to rent. I mean, sometimes you can only buy it and not rent it right away. So, I don't know. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But, yeah, are you guys going to check it out? I'm hoping it does well. I'm hoping that it lets people know that there is an interest on the subject. I mean, we do have other UFO movies coming down the pike pretty soon. Not just documentaries, by the way. Steven Spielberg's working on one. It might be called Disclosure. Not really sure. I think it was called The Dish at first, and then now it's called Disclosure, but it could change again. Who knows? But hey, that's an intriguing title. And then another movie by the same guys who made Top Gun Maverick, which is my favorite movie of that year. I think it was 2022. Yeah, they're making a movie, and they have David Grush as one of the executive producers on it, which is extremely interesting. I wonder when they're gonna start filming on that movie. I'm not sure if it's gonna be coming out not next year. I'm sure, because they haven't even started filming yet. So I don't know. Who knows what's going on with that? But I can't wait. Yeah, I'm blabbering on long enough. I have to go. Tell me, guys, what you think about it. If you're gonna get the movie. And any thoughts on the reviews so far? Yeah, we're hoping that it gets more positive than that. And more than anything, I just hope that it does something. It moves the needle somewhat. And you know what? Not just a little bit, but a lot of it. So, I don't know. We'll see.